Hi there. At a recent psychology conference, I was a member of a panel discussing contemporary coaching. How coaching works, does it work? What do people think of coaching? What's the evidence base for coaching? And I made a point about choosing a coach and how difficult that can be. So in this video, what I want to do is share my perspective on the important things to ensure are in place when you're selecting your coach. I'm Dr. Richard McKinnon. I'm a chartered psychologist and coach. And on this channel, I share insights from the science of psychology to help you be your best self at work. Before we go any further, what is a coach? It may horrify you to know that anyone, at least in the UK, can call themselves a coach. It's not a regulated profession, unlike some of the other professions you will be familiar with, like medicine or dentistry or law or anything else, where you have to pass certain exams and hold certain licenses. Anyone can call themselves a coach. So if you want to work with a coach, you've got some work to do, which is to find out if the person you're speaking to is the kind of professional you would like to enter into a professional relationship with. So now you can find out all about my approach to coaching on the website. The link is below, WorkLIfePsych.com/coaching. And I've got answers to many frequently asked questions about coaching over on the FAQ page, which again, link below. I'd love to add more questions to that. So if you've got questions about coaching, please feel free to pop them in the comments section below. So let's start with the maybe most obvious, but sometimes overlooked point. And that is your coach needs to have training in coaching skills. A lot of people present themselves as a coach based on their experience in the workplace. I've been working with people for years. I've been working in corporate environments for decades. Of course, I'll make a good coach, but you need training in coaching skills. So they should be able to explain to you what training they possess, how long it was, what constituted the qualification. And ideally, you're looking for something more than a 2-day course, introductory certificate, or something like that. Your coach also needs professional accreditation. Now, it might send a bit of a shiver down your spine to realize that coaching, at least in the UK, is not a regulated profession. And this means that anyone can call themselves a coach. So in order to separate the qualified from the unqualified, your coach should have some form of professional accreditation. There are a number of large bodies that give accreditation to people who have specific skills, specific experience, and fulfill other kind of demanding criteria. It also means that the coach is signed up to some ethical framework, some professional regulations, and it gives you a little bit more faith that they are a professional that you can work with. It also means that they will have signed up to and should be adhering to some kind of professional ethical framework. Now, I'm going to list some of those professional bodies in the notes below. But for example, I am accredited by the British Psychological Society, and I'm also regulated by a professional body called the HCPC, which means that if anyone had a problem with the way I was doing my work, they have a route to make a formal complaint, and that will be investigated. And if I'm not working as a professional, there'll be consequences for that. So the accreditation bit is so much more important than a few letters after someone's name, but really refers to the body that is supervising their practice. And that brings me neatly to my next point, supervision. Ideally, your coach should be working under the supervision of a more experienced coaching practitioner. And this isn't because they're not good enough to do the work. It's because that all of us in these kinds of professions, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, all of the caring professions need some form of supervision so that we can bring the challenges we encounter in our day-to-day work to someone else and talk about the challenges we're facing, how we're navigating them. Maybe we're finding ourselves stuck with an ethical challenge, or maybe we've just been through a really tough time with some tough client situations and we want to talk it through with someone who is objective and professional and has a supervisory relationship with us, a kind of coaching relationship. But it's not a friend, it's not a manager, it's another kind of safe space And that enables us to remain on the right side of professional practice. At the risk of getting into the weeds, I recommend you ask your coach about the methods they use. Coaches should be using evidence-based methods in their coaching. What do I mean by this? Methods that are supported by scientific evidence, not something they've made up, but more worryingly, not something that's just received wisdom. It's been around for a long time, or something they're labeling as best practice, because that often just means common practice. It doesn't mean they understand if it works, for whom it works, or how it works. So we want to avoid one-size-fits-all coaching methods, and we want to zone in on someone who has a toolkit of varied approaches for varying different contexts, and that these methods are supported by good quality scientific evidence. And this brings me to my next point. Any coach worth their salt should be able to explain these methods to you. Why do they choose one approach over another? They should be open about why they adhere to a framework or why they bring a certain tool to a coaching session. They should be able to answer those questions and not fall back on, well, it's a bit magical, or it's a bit of a black box and the important thing is that it works. No, we're supposed to be scientists. This is so important because coaching is not magic. Coaching ideally is based on scientific principles of human functioning, human learning, well-being, neuroscience. All of this stuff that's really important to understand about other humans. It's not a case of, I read one book and I'm going to do this book to you. So we want to be able to ensure that the person you're working with is really thinking like a scientist, brings the scientific method to their work and is able to answer your reasonable questions about their approach. Let me put it to you this way. I highly doubt that you would choose a dentist who explained to you, well, I've watched a few videos and I do have one book on my shelf. And finally, something you should look for is that your coach should be offering you a free chemistry session. This is an opportunity to ask them lots of questions about their approach, their qualifications, their accreditation, what it's like to work with them, what you can expect from coaching. Obviously, and as I've explained this in a previous video, it gives them an opportunity to find out about you and your context and whether it's even an appropriate context for coaching to begin with. Ask them all of the questions that I've just shared with you, and unless you get satisfactory answers, don't take it any further. Consider it an audition. They should be able to provide good answers to all of your questions. They should do that willingly, and if they don't respond well to that, I'm going to take that as a bit of a red flag. And my advice would be to step away and explore coaching with a professional who is willing to give answers to these questions. So, in closing, just to remind you, just because it's called coaching doesn't mean it is coaching, and just because someone says they're a coach, it doesn't necessarily mean they have all of these things in place that I've been sharing today. I hope you found it useful. If you like these videos, consider literally liking them, subscribing to the channel, and following up with any of your questions and comments in the space below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.